Drones have become an everyday part of modern life. They are increasingly being used to inspect tall structures, to take footage of places of interest from the air, and by emergency services to track missing persons. But there's another group of people based in Ayrshire who also use drones, but in the search for missing dogs. Dogs are such a big part of many people's lives. They are regarded as part of the family, so when they go missing, this is, more often than not, a traumatic event, and one for which most people are not well equipped to deal with. Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue was set up by Liz Milligan after her rescue dog Flash decided to let himself out of the house one day, late at night. Liz vividly remembers the sheer panic that swept over her as she and her husband trawled the streets in search of Flash. That was 9 years ago.
What happened was I rescued a lurcher from Facebook. It was on sale for £40, so we thought this dog won't go to the right place. So I rescued him, fostered him, got him a home, and he kept running away and coming back to us. So we decided between the owner and myself we were keeping him. So he took himself off one night. He opened the front door. We didn't know he could open the door, and he was away for about 7 hours. We went looking for him, and my husband saw him and shouted him, and he just turned and ran, and we couldn't understand why. So basically he was in fight or flight mode, which at the time we didn't understand. We searched for about 5 hours and then decided to go home and see if he would come home. Don't know what made me do it, but I opened the door and he basically let himself in 2 hours later. So the next morning I said to my husband, we have to help people here.
Keen to learn what they had done wrong, Liz carried out extensive research and was horrified to find that they had done all the wrong things and had actually pushed Flash further away. Armed with her newfound knowledge, Liz successfully helped friends whose dogs had also gone missing, gradually leading Liz to start Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue.
When I googled what we were supposed to do, we have to help people because how many people don't know and are chasing their dogs away? So I researched it quite a bit, helped friends who had lost dogs, and it kind of spiralled from there. So Flash is 10 and a half, he was 1.5 when he did that, so 9 years ago roughly. And then, as I say, I was helping friends, family, and it spiralled from there. I met Lisa and AJ about 3 years ago, and we kind of worked together, and Sue Bishop Forrester, and from there it got busier and busier, so we started a group June 2 years ago.
Whilst the drones play an important part in Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue's work, they are not the main reason for the group's high success rate in finding lost dogs, a success rate currently running at around 92%. Frances Grosier from New Cumnock, whose dachshund Mace went missing just as she was about to take a holiday in Tenerife, knows only too well how the advice she was given was central to getting Mace back safely.
Right. Well, we're due to go on holiday to Tenerife between Christmas and New Year, and we hadn't long got Mace, who was with a family that we know, but they didn't have the time for him, and asked us if we would take him. So of course we said yes, didn't we? So my friend was going to watch him so he didn't have to get into kennels. That was fine, but Mace had other plans, decided he was going on holidays and run away. So with everybody going out looking for him, I think he'd went into flight mode. Just wouldn't come back for anybody. So we got in contact with the ADDR, who gave us great advice on how to try and get him. Just don't shout at him and let him be, because he'll just get frightened and he'll just keep running, which is exactly what he done. So for 2 days we didn't know where he was, just stood searching, but they had told us not to approach him or anything like that, let him come himself, just leave him in a scent trail. I think it was sardines and what was that thing? Sardines and clothes to put him down at the point where he was last seen. So we done all that as well. And for people that was out searching, not to shout at them if they seen him, to text or give the ADDR a phone call and take a photo, and they would deal with it for there. But nobody seen him for 2 days, and then finally we got the phone call on the Saturday morning for a girl. Her and her husband their alarm had went off, in the early hours of the morning, and he'd seen him on the camera. So of course we went, got into the car straight away, Jane Bella, that's his sister, and away we went, but he just run away again with the noise and just so scared. But finally we managed to get him, and she'd told me just don't approach him, let him come himself. So that's exactly, I just sat down with my back to him, and finally he must have got my scent and we were reunited, but we would never have been able to do it without their advice, never. They were absolutely amazing. Phoning us, texting us, updates, everything. Posters, told me how to get the posters all done, and oh, they were great, absolutely amazing.
The drones are used mostly to eliminate areas where lost dogs may be.
The drone was something that from the beginning I thought we could cover a lot of distance with. So rather than the drone ruling dogs in a lot of the time, it's to rule out areas that the dog isn't in, that we couldn't possibly get to from by foot. So it could be that the dog's stuck in a hole, which the drone wouldn't pick up, or it could be that the dog is in a field somewhere, which the drone has picked up in the past, but it might be that it's quite rough for us to get to that field, so it quickly covers a large area. We first did it, we fundraised for a drone because there was a dog missing around this area in a park, so it was quite useful for that. So we got the drone first, and then we got the thermal equipment, which is very, very useful as well. So the drone goes out, it's hard to say how often because every case is different, but what we'll do first of all is we risk assess, we see what equipment's needed, we send out the thermal if it's needed, but 80% of the time dogs get home just through advice. Then if we feel that the dog's in danger, if it's wearing a harness or it could be trapped by its collar because it's not a collar that will just snap off, we will send the drone out in that instance. We are going tomorrow actually to Arran. There's a dog missing in Arran, and it's a vast area, so we're taking both the thermal and the mini drone to there. So yeah, it's difficult to say how often it goes out. It was out for a dog a couple of weeks ago, but it was actually a report of a dog that we'd got in water and it looked as if it was deceased. We couldn't get to it, so we took the drone out, and it was actually foam, believe it or not. I mean, it really did look like a dog. And the reports we were getting were photos that looked like a dog. So the drone ruled that out as well.
Virtually all owners of lost dogs agree that the advice they were given by ADDR was the main reason they were reunited with their dogs, and several of the owners have gone on to volunteer with the group, including Emma Gary and her husband Michael.
So I would say I got involved about February time, and I would say we're kind of on call all the time to answer messages on the page, or responding to phone calls if Liz is unavailable, or if somebody's unavailable, basically to help out. Okay, so I think I enjoy most about volunteering for ADDR. It's just such a nice little community. Everyone's always there to help, and the reward of finding a dog is just next to nothing. Like, it's amazing. Obviously I'm a dog walker and I have lost one of my dog walking dogs. Luckily we found her the next day, and if I can put any of my expertise into helping find other dogs, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Without the volunteers, Liz admits it would be impossible to deal with all the inquiries from owners about their missing dogs, sometimes as many as 8 or 9 calls in a single day.
We've got amazing volunteers. They give their heart and soul as well. There's a lot to be done. There's the social media side of things, there's the messenger side of things, there's giving advice, there's going out there with the thermal equipment or the drone if it's needed. So all of that takes up so much time, and these volunteers just give up so much of their time as well. We've got such an amazing team who go out at the drop of a hat. We find ourselves scanning more found dogs now than we used to. Again, it's helping out the police because they're not going into the kennels or the police station if we can find the owner. So yeah, a lot of the time as well, the volunteers are actually going out to scan dogs. With dogs that are actually missing, when we get when they're found, when we get a call to deal with a found dog, the first thing we do is to ask people not to try and chase the dog if it won't willingly come to them, because it's most likely in survival mode. So again, we don't want to go out to that dog immediately. However, if it's near a road, a railway or a body of water, or there's a danger there, the team drop everything and they're out to try and catch that dog, quite successfully as well. So it just takes up so much time, and people don't realise, but if it wasn't for the volunteers we had, we couldn't do what we do.
Another volunteer, Teresa Rodding, got involved with Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue after going to help find a missing dog.
So just over a year ago, about a year and a half, I saw on social media there was a dog loose on the beach in Ayr. It appeared to be quite an aggressive dog, and it was a day off work and I had just gone to help to see if I could do anything, and by chance I came across her in a car park. She looked injured, as if she'd maybe been hit by a car. She was lying down, and I'd known Liz a few years and knew what she did, although I didn't know a great deal about it. So I'd phoned Liz in a panic to say, look, I've found this dog, I'm sitting on the ground in this car park, please tell me what to do now. And the girls from ADDR were outstanding. They kept me on the phone the whole time, talking me through what to do, what not to do. It was a good 8-hour stint of lying in the car park. We had people phoning ambulances and things, turning up, wondering what was going on. It took a long time, and it took into the next day before we actually managed to capture her, get a hold of her. It ended well for her. We got her to a vet. She's now a search and rescue dog. But the whole experience, for me, I was terrified. The dog appeared so aggressive, but it was fear aggression, something that I didn't know anything about. But the girls were able to tell me. So it did end well, and I got quite a boost from it. And Liz kind of plucked me in, would you like to be a volunteer? And it came from there, and it's been like that ever since.
With much of the success of Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue being due to the advice given to dog owners, it's really important that owners listen to and follow that advice in order to be successfully reunited with their missing pets, says Teresa.
The majority, if not all, of people who have don't know the advice that's coming. It goes against the grain, and it does go against the grain. When your dog goes missing, you want to run and shout and do everything that comes naturally. But getting people to listen is a big thing, and that is getting, wider spread. More people are realising, the more followers there are on social media and the more people sharing things, it is getting out there. Don't shout, don't chase, this kind of stuff. But when it happens to that person, it's very difficult to stop and listen to the advice of others, because you just think, that's my baby, they'll do what I say, and you just want to go. So it is really important getting this message out, and social media appears to be the best way to do it. It spreads far and wide that way.
But the most effective resources the group use, aside from advice they give, are also low-tech, such as fish trails to entice a missing dog back.
So one of the things that we do is we do fish trails, fish soup trails, to get the dog back. So it creates a really strong smell, and the dog follows the trails, so we can actually put that trail down and get the dog to where we want it to be. So if we're setting a trap somewhere and we need it to be somewhere quiet, but the dog is frequenting somewhere else, we can actually get the dog to where we need, or we can trail the dog home. So what we use for that is a concoction of, we've got sardine oil. With owners, we ask them to use a tin of sardines, malt it all up, put it into a bottle with a beef stock cube, water and oil, and then what that does is, when it goes down, the oil penetrates the ground and it holds the smell in the ground even if it's been raining. We also add a little bit of liquid smoke, which is basically barbecue in a bottle. It is human food, but the dogs absolutely love it, so we'll add a little bit of that to it. We also can use that to trail dogs into a trap. So as well as food, we would put that down and put it right into the trap. And you can actually see the dogs following the trail to where you want them to be.
When Emma and Joe McCafferty's Doberman, Coco, went missing whilst being walked by the couple's dog walker, it soon became clear that the advice they got from Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue would prove invaluable.
So it was quite a few hours into everybody looking, and that's when the dog walker had actually flagged ADDR. Ayrshire drone dog rescue. I wasn't aware of them at that point, so she had sent a link and said they might be able to help. So they had messaged me really quick. They're so good at responding, and had basically just asked, to understand the situation. Had explained what had happened, where she'd went missing from, and then they started with the support for us, just in terms of what to do. You think you know your dog at that point, and you think they'll come back if you shout them. ADDR was amazing at explaining dogs go into survival mode and every single person and thing is a predator at that point, which I've never had a dog that's went missing, so I didn't understand that. So they quickly worked together with us to start laying down scent traps and ways that we could look for her so that we're not pushing her further away from the area that she's went missing from. So that was extremely helpful at that point.
Sadly, not all lost dogs who run away in fright return home unscathed. Helen Cole's 2-year-old Hungarian Vizsla, Bella, ran off in fright and flight mode after someone had let off a firework nearby. Bella was being walked at the couple's local park by husband Tristan at the time.
We got home from work about 5ish and it was actually my husband Tristan, took Bella out as usual, took her over to our usual walk over into the park, and all of a sudden some fireworks started to go off and Bella got the fright of her life and she just ran, and we don't even know where she ran to, but she vanished for hours and we were looking and searching everywhere we could think of. And then we got some terrible news that a dog had been hit by a car quite nearby us, and we just sort of knew that it must have been Bella because she would have been back home. She knows the way home because she walks every day to her usual route, so we thought it's definitely her. It was just horrendous trying to take everything in, but eventually we got in touch with Liz and the team at ADDR, and they helped us look, as did some neighbours and friends and also complete strangers. There must have been about 40 or 50 people out looking for her that night. She disappeared. Unfortunately we didn't find her that night. We had to go out again at 6 the next morning. I think we'd stopped looking maybe about 3:30. My husband came in and we got some rest and went back out again first thing in the morning.
Despite frustration at not having found Bella that evening, their ordeal was made worse knowing that Bella had probably been hit by a car, and that there was nothing they could do to help her until she could be found.
We eventually found her really badly injured at the riverbank on a really steep section of the riverbank, so it was only Tristan that could get to her because he's so tall. And Liz was there as well, so Liz was there when we found her, thankfully, and we couldn't get her into a local vet, and Liz phoned the vet that she knows, and I think had it not been for Liz phoning that vet and the vet Robert that did look after her, giving her such amazing treatment, she wouldn't be here now. It's just, it's miraculous, definitely.
Despite having one of her back legs amputated, Bella has recovered well. The couple decided to get a companion for Bella, a 1-year-old Hungarian Vizsla named Narla.
So Bella now has a new sister Nala, who we got to give her some more company and some energy and maybe just keep her spirits up after her terrible accident, because she was very low and she seemed a bit depressed, so we thought having a new companion would help her along a little bit, and it certainly has done that because the two of them never ever stopped.
Darren and Kat McCallum's dogs, Hamish and Holly, were also hit by a car after taking fright and running away whilst being walked on Ayr Beach. The dogs had been out with wife Kat at the time. Hamish had suffered a broken leg, but Holly was not injured, and she ran off from the scene.
So I was actually on holiday at the time, and my wife was with her friend and their young springer, and they were just down the beach. A really nice day. They were out. The dogs were in and out the water, and they were ready to go home at that point. So my wife had called the dogs back, and as they were coming back, a seagull had taken off from the long grass, and they kind of startled the dogs a bit, and they've chased after them. So as they've chased after them, they've went across the main road. So it's a 60 mile an hour road. Hamish has been struck by a car. He's hit, and so the car has struck Hamish, hit Holly. And Hamish had stayed in where he was, and Holly had also got spooked and she's startled. So my wife had been able to get Hamish into the back of the car and take him up to the emergency vets, and Holly had went missing. So as she was up, when I was in France at the time, my wife had phoned me and said, look, this is going to go on Facebook, Holly's ran away, just trying to get it. So I'd heard of the Ayrshire'S drone dog rescue before, so I'd messaged Kat and said, look, get in touch with these guys and see if there's anything that they can do to help. And right from the beginning, at that time of night, it was sort of later on in the evening, they were straight on to the Facebook channels, they were giving all the advice out, they were telling us what to do, what not to do, and I think it's just that really invaluable advice that they were able to give when your natural reaction is just to go into panic and shock. The benefit of being away as such was I was able to coordinate it all, so they had a Facebook page channel with everyone in it. Your automatic reaction is to go out shouting, so we were shouting for Holly, people chasing her. There were sightings right the way along that main road as we were coming out, so they were talking about up by the hotel, maybe a mile or so away, right back to where they were, and people had stopped their cars to start to go out and look for her. The drone rescue people were really good in terms of getting on contact with us to say, please tell people to stop shouting her name, don't do that, she's gone into flight mode, she doesn't understand that people are trying to help her, she's scared and she doesn't know what to do. And that was really beneficial for us to be able to help. We had people out helping to look, but to be able to say just go looking, and if there are any sightings to let us know on the Facebook page. The other bits, it's things that you don't really think of. So we had, there's a railway line near to where she'd went missing. So we were thinking, oh my God, the 60 mile an hour road, there's a railway line, contact Network Rail. The drone rescue had looked at Google Maps to see where Holly had went missing. There was farm outbuildings nearby. So they were able to tell us to go and search the outbuildings and see if she was there. Now, this had been on Russell night, so my wife had been up to the emergency vets with Hamish and had came back down, and the drone rescue people were really good to say that within 72 hours the dog would generally come back to where they went missing, and that was some of the best advice to give. So my wife Kat and her mum and stepdad, they'd done the night shift down at the beach with the car, opening the boot, closing the boot, the dogs recognise the noise, starting the engine, turning the engine off, putting things down that smell of home, the good treats, the sardines, the tuna, going out and looking, but just again staying really calm and not going out looking for them. So this had went on all night, and then in the morning, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, they went out and again popped the boot open. And the Holly had come out from the long grass nearby, so again doing what the drone rescue people had said to us, and they'd staying really calm. Joan had kind of sat down with a tin of sardines, and Holly had came up to her, and she'd also spent the night in this long grass nearby to the car. But without the drone rescue people telling us exactly what to do, we would have had everybody out shouting for her, looking for her, which would have just made things worse. But by actually just a couple of people that she knew, staying calm, smells from home, and getting in contact with the right people was absolutely invaluable, and probably wouldn't have got her back as quickly, if at all, if it wasn't for those guys helping us.
Hamish suffered a broken front leg, but after having steel pins inserted into his leg, he eventually made a full recovery.
Yeah, so Hamish, straight up to the emergency vet in Kilmarnock. This happened on a Saturday evening, so it was straight up to the emergency vet to get seen. We had no idea what his injuries were. He kind of came hobbled back to Kat at the time and just collapsed at her feet. He was in the car, kind of blood, with no idea what his injuries were when we went up there. The vets were brilliant up at Kilmarnock, so they had scanned him, head to toe. We knew he'd broken his leg at that point, but didn't know to the extent. But we were really lucky to be hit on that 60 mile an hour road and come away at that point with a broken leg. He stayed in overnight just to be assessed, and then in the morning he was let back home with his cast on. Again, we took him to our own vets in West Kilbride just to get assessed, and within that afternoon he was taken up to the vet hospital in Glasgow for an operation. So he's got sort of 2 plates and pins in his right leg now. So the sort of recovery in that was fairly quick. We actually got him out of the hospital, and the vet surgeon had taken him out to the car, and he tried to jump in the boot of the car. So I think dogs are very, very resilient in that respect, but maybe not so much when you've just had 2 plates put in. But the recovery was over a matter of months, and it was just about really taking the time. Dogs think they're okay, and he's wanting to run about and play, particularly when you've got a sibling who's fine at that point. So it was really good to be able to, we had to just really take our time with his walking, building him up, his strength back up in his leg, but trying to keep him calm was the hardest thing. But within sort of 2 or 3 weeks, he peered back to his normal self. It was just trying to get that walking. And the vet was concerned at the time that in terms of his walking, that he might have a limp or we wouldn't be able to get back to a full kind of normal walk. But we've been really lucky in the fact that he has, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference now when he's out running around.
Liz Milligan says that whilst drones can often play their part in dog rescues, the advice and support the team give to dog owners when their pets go missing is central to the group's success rate in reuniting dogs with their owners.
What's the first thing you should do if your dog goes missing? So if your dog has just went for a wee wander and is quite happy to come back, it might be that you just need to treat it like a game. Run the opposite way, make it a game, shout them to come to you. That way the dog will usually come back. If it's gone beyond that and the dog has actually gone missing for a wee bit longer, what you need to do is stay put at the missing point. That is so important. A dog will return to the missing point if it's allowed to do so. The things that would stop it coming back to the missing point are people chasing it. That's our biggest problem, is well-meaning people. They don't mean bad by it, but they don't realise that by going towards that dog, if it's not going to willingly come to you, there's a good chance it's got a fright and it's in what we call fight or flight mode. So what then happens is, when that happens to the dog, its senses are heightened, so everything is a predator. Anybody coming towards that dog, somebody using mobile phones, somebody talking, other dogs barking, everything and every noise is a predator to the dog. So they're going to run from you. The mistake that I made, and a lot of people make, is that they start to shout their dog, but there's panic in your voice. So when the dog hears that, it thinks it's in trouble, so it just runs the opposite way, which is exactly what my dog did. So understanding that, never approach a missing dog. If you see a dog that's straying, ignore it unless it's going to come to you, because you're not going to catch that dog. Please don't be the person that thinks that, yeah, I'll catch that dog, because you won't. All you'll do is chase that dog further away, and there's a good chance that'll be onto a railway because it's quieter. Here, Jack, good boy. A railway, a body of water, or a road that's busy. So, don't chase the dog. So you're staying at the missing point. It might be, as I say, that you need to stay overnight, because sometimes if dogs get a fright, they will actually go and hide, and they'll not start moving again until first light. So again, stay there. Don't use white torches, because dogs have, akin to what we have, red or green colour blindness. So they only see, they can't see red or green. So that's why we would use those torches. If you don't have a red or green torch, use a white torch with a sweetie wrapper over it. It has the same effect. So again, if the dog goes missing from home, you want to be leaving the door open that the dog uses most, and the gate. It needs clear access in to the house. Don't keep going to the door and checking, because if you check at that point and the dog is ready to come in and it spooks it, it's just going to run. So it may be that you've got to leave the door open overnight. Now, I know there's instances where there might be a problem with that. It could be unsafe, it could be, not in a great area. There is ways around it. I would find a way around it if it was my dog, to be honest. So people put up barriers and say, can't leave the door open, I'm not leaving the door open, but have a think that the stats show that that's how the dog comes back. So we do always ask, leave the door open, even if it's overnight. Use your warm scented clothes. Take something from the laundry basket, run it around the ground and hang it on a tree to get the scent airborne. Dogs can smell for up to 12 miles in the right conditions. So a lot of people will say to us, the dog doesn't know the area, we've just moved into this area, the dog has just basically been dropped off, it's a rescue dog, it's not going to find its way back, but it does find its way back. The other thing is, if you've just moved house, remember that that dog will know where it used to stay. So there's a possibility it could make its way back to your old property. So make the neighbours aware of that, and if they've got CCTV, ask them to be watching out just in case the dog does come back there. Not always possible because again that's someone else's house, but if they can leave that door open, there's a possibility it will come back there. If a dog goes missing close to home, again, it can return to either the missing point or home. So we would cover both areas with the scenting, we would do the fish trails. After a bit of time, we would start looking at putting barbecues on with strong smelling food. We also ask that if a dog's been out for a wee while, that people don't go and feed a dog, because we would have a feed station with cameras and we're trying to get that dog back to an area where either the owner can bring it in by hand, or we may need to humanely trap the dog. So again, we would ask that you don't just go out and say that dog's been out for a few days, we need to put food out. You don't need to put food out. That dog will be finding food, but we might need our food station to be the only source of food to be able to get that dog. What I would say is, I know that not every area has a trapping team, but if you have a search and rescue trapping team, get in touch with them right away. You basically want to get them involved as quickly as possible to get the right advice. We have all our advice posters on our website under helpful information. They're also on our Facebook page. There's a recorded message if somebody messages into the page and we're not available, or it's bedtime, and it tells you exactly what to do. So again, it's good for people to make themselves aware of this before it happens. We do a lot of education on the site, and it's amazing the amount of people we see on other pages that will say, don't do this, don't do that, and it's clear that they do, they follow the information, and it's great that they get it out there. So again, if you do see it on other pages, it's not on our page, please do advise people, don't search, don't chase, because getting the word out there is what's going to get dogs home much quicker.
Information on what to do if you have lost a dog can be found on the Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue website under useful information at addr.org.uk. Please like, share and subscribe to the Scotland channel for more great content about Scotland.